Welcome back to the Djellab YouTube channel, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys are doing very well at home. Joining me today, two beautiful men. First up, we've got Patrick van Straten. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Was expecting you to go to Henry. Yeah, I'm totally fine. Didn't sleep last night. Don't know why.
Probably the fact that you got two young kids waking you up all the time.
No, they were fine. It was just all on me.
Fair.
He's nervous about the election.
Exactly.
He's worried that his big man Rishi is going to leave.
I was
the
worried.
Red Bull's coming and he's upset. You know?
I was worried about how Henry will respond to the failure of reform to make any inroads in the English Parliament. But yeah, it's obviously a big day.
You've addressed your Clacton-on-Sea, aren't you? That's your
big time.
big for us.
Henry Hill, you've got some big news for the people at home.
Yep. Thank you, Zach.
Makes it sound like he thinks you're pregnant.
That'd be fun. No, I've got a new job. I have a new job. You will be seeing me on Joe Media from now on. Football Joe, not Politics Joe, which is the only form of Joe that most people seem to know so far when they talk to me about it.
They'd never let you on Politics Joe. The things you'd say. The right-wing rhetoric would be unbelievable.
Mix it up. I'm going to be over there for now. So heading up the Football Joe stuff. So please come over, support it. I don't quite know how that's going to look. It might just be my arm in Vox Pops that you see and my voice in the background, but hopefully my face will appear a bit more soon. So yeah, it's going to be real fun. But yeah, big thank you to you, Zach, for for my free labour to you all these weeks. Big
Are we still going to have you here, or are you gone forever?
At first, I'm probably going to have to stick there. And then hopefully over time
He'll come back home.
once I can, I can come and do these kind of things.
Congratulations, rescinded.
But no, I was there. But yeah, and thanks to everyone at Glastonbury who came over and said hello as well, because it was a real good self-esteem boost.
Did they say hello?
Yeah, loads of people.
I thought they said Jan or Black.
Yeah, no, there was one bloke who was just like Jan or Black. But there was a lot of people there's a lot of Football Daily fans knocking around, and now Zach Djellab fans. It turns out,
of course,
Djellabbers.
Djellabbers.
A lot of people slagged you off, Pat. It was real vicious. I was like, he's not that bad. He's not that bad.
That's fine. I don't care what the children say about it.
Anyway, this
I'm a grown man.
It's true. No, well, this will always be my first love. So don't you worry about
I appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much. I'll make sure that we tag Joe Football as well in the comments. So please head over to that channel. Get ready for seeing some Henry Hill football opinions on their YouTube channel. Henry Joe. That's how I do it.
That's great.
And it's a big day today, guys. As we've mentioned, a big day today. The general election is happening here in the UK.
I just got to think about the idea that like Henry's first action would be like, have we thought about rebranding this like Football Henry? That'd be amazing pitch.
Well, I think you basically could if you wanted to.
Going from Football Daily to Football Joe is not a very ambitious transition. So I think Henry Joe.
Henry Joe's way to do it. Henry Joe's way to do it. Anyway, boys, back to what I was saying. Big day today, general election. And because of that, I thought, as you can see by the title, we're going to do how to fix England.
Oh, that's really good.
Thank you very much. Has
that been done on YouTube yet, or is that
what that segue?
This idea.
Well, where TIFO do like sensible transfers, they're like into the Department of like Works and Pensions. Like.
That's actually pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, maybe give that idea to Joe Politics.
I will.
But yeah, of course, it's not actually looking at the political side. You guys vote for how you're going to vote. Just make sure that you do vote. We're going to be talking though about the England football team. We're going to do this in kind of two halves. The first half is going to be about Euro 2024 and how we can make sure England go all the way to go and lift that trophy under Gareth Southgate. And then the second half of the video is going to be looking at England post Euro 2024. Is that going to be post Southgate? Will it be a new manager? We'll get onto that in good time. But lads, let's kick it off with England in Euro 2024. Henry Hill. England played on Sunday, just gone. When this video goes out, England will be playing on the Saturday. But let's go back to that game. 1-0 down for a long time. A Jude Bellingham bicycle kick. Harry Kane extra time goal. What were your opinions on that game?
Again, shoddy performance. I won't lie, I was watching Avril Lavigne for a lot of it, but it was, there was a lot of disgruntled men singing Skater Boy and checking their phones at the same time. So,
Where were you when you found out Bellingham scored?
They started playing Hey Jude over the speakers, and then everyone was like, yeah. But no, I've actually subsequently watched the game, and it was, again, just turgid, slow, difficult, just painful to watch.
Yeah.
And even like Jude Bellingham, I'm sorry, like did not play great for a lot of the game.
The only one?
Apparently Carl Walker had a stinker,
I thought
like
Carl
real
Walker
bad
was
at
not
right
good.
back. Maybe one of his worst performances in a sort of major tournament in an England shirt. It's just like Slovakia knew what to do. I think this is the thing. Most teams know what to do against England now. And this is my biggest worry against Switzerland. I think Switzerland is a worst case scenario for us because they are a very good team who are also very organised at the same time. It's almost, I'd rather have played the Netherlands. Switzerland have much better players throughout the side than Slovakia or Slovenia or Serbia or Denmark at this point. They have leaders at the top of their game, and they will take one look at this England team and go, well, look, we'll just do what Slovakia did, but do it much better. And guess what? We've got the attacking players to really make a difference. Ivan Scrans, by the way, is one of my favourite players at this tournament. I mean, I don't know where he's come from. Great name, scoring goals for Slovakia every week. But yeah, I think Switzerland are a really nightmare scenario for England at this moment in time. And if we're changing our formation to match up to Switzerland's in the meantime, which is one of the rumours rumbling around, if we go to three at the back, I don't even know where we've got the personnel to do that. But if we're having to like switch the way we're playing to accommodate Switzerland, then I think that shows a big issue. But yeah, look, they got the job done, and I'm hoping that kind of extra time period really does light a spark. I do think that you should be leaving on someone like Kane, giving him the opportunity to find those goals because he will pop up in those right positions. But it's so slow in transition. The ability to get the ball sort of up through the forwards is really difficult. I think there is an argument that, Foden plays in a very technical system at Man City, whereas Bellingham he's sort of told at Real Madrid, you've got to figure it out on the pitch. And that's
free-flowing,
how are those two meant to match that up together when they're almost like two different schools of thought coming together? It's just painful because people keep saying play a winger. Spain have shown if you just play some wingers, especially if you've got no pace on the left wing anyway, play some wingers so you can overload people and get in behind these blocks. Then you might have a bit more chance of success. Play runners off Harry Kane, which has historically been successful with Sterling and Rashford. And yet when just refusing to do that, I can't believe that he's just tentatively making one change each game and then seeing if that will make the ultimate difference. Like Kobbie Mainoo's not meant to come in there and fundamentally transform how this England team play. I think the good players are having too much loyalty shown to them. And the reality is, at this moment in time, it's just hindering our ability to make a dent in these teams. And Switzerland, as I said, is going to be really, really hard to break down. So, I mean, Pat, I'm more interested to hear what you think of it. But it's just turgid and difficult. And it is the most sort of depressing England team at a major tournament I've seen in a long time. It's like Didier Deschamps times 5.
And he won the World Cup. So, who knows?
Yeah. But I mean, it was much more functional, wasn't it?
And they had Mbappe.
But they always looked functional. They were boring, but they looked functional.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. This England team doesn't really look functional. I mean, really, you can sum it up by the fact that for passes completed per 90 at this tournament, England are third. For passes into the penalty area, they are 8th. For key passes, that's chances created, they are 18th.
Oh,
Jesus Christ.
That's crazy. I mean, it just feels, and that's what you see watching them, they're incredibly territorially dominant, but it just seems like the balance is off. And I think there are a few issues here. I mean, obviously, it feels like Gareth Southgate should have brought a proper left back, even if it was an inferior quality left back to the one he wanted to take. Lots of teams at this tournament are using players who, in an ideal world, you would not have in your starting 11, but they fit the role, they can perform the role that they need to. And that's actually, what Deschamps did. He had inferior players at times. I was never a big fan of Luca Hernandez playing left back, but he performed the role that Deschamps wanted him to perform. Well, yeah, if you take Tyrick Mitchell, I don't know about Tyrick Mitchell actually.
Ben Chilwell was
he's so defensive.
Well, Tyrick Mitchell is the best case scenario in this situation in terms of the England left back.
Sure, though also of course, I do think the Saka left back experiment is one worth running.
Yeah.
But there's they're incredibly territorially dominant, but they are incapable of getting the ball into the box and creating chances. And to me, there are a few issues there. One is width.
Yeah, definitely.
You have no width at all, especially when Foden plays off the left, because Foden wants to come inside. Saka wants to come inside from the right. You've got Walker, who can get up the right flank, but you've got nobody who can get up the left flank because Trippier is right-footed and is also not hugely mobile. So where is the width coming from? If you had a different centre forward, and I'm not saying you would drop Harry Kane, but if you had a different centre forward who was more of a channel running guy, like say you had Ollie Watkins, you could have, Bellingham pushes forward towards the kind of striker role, Foden comes inside, Watkins drops to the left, and all those players have played all those positions. It kind of makes sense in a kind of carousel way. Like there's a way you could fit that together, or at least a way a good coach could fit that together. Maybe a better coach than Southgate, I don't know. But right now, when you watch them, they just seem incredibly easy to defend. It feels like everybody knows what they're going to do. So I think that's one issue. Another issue is that all the players in that front block are ball to feet guys, but none of them is a ball magnet. So they're not going to run in behind off ball. Occasionally Bellingham does that, and that is when England look most dangerous. Yeah. Occasionally Foden's done that, and I think about that disallowed goal against
in the Slovakia game.
Yes,
he's offside.
Is that the one I'm thinking of? The one that Saka puts in? No, I'm thinking of the other one. The early one. It was against Serbia or someone.
Yes.
Maybe Slovenia.
One of the.
I'm getting all my Eastern nations mixed up. But anyway, there's the one where Foden makes an off-ball run. He receives the ball. He plays it across the face of goal. Saka taps it in, and Foden was offside. But Foden made an off-ball run from wide, from out to in, and suddenly you're like, oh, that was dangerous. Bellingham scored the first goal, of the tournament for England by making an off-ball run into the box. Ball goes over Harry Kane's head. Who's there? A guy who's just as big and predatory as Harry Kane. So this is something they need to have, but I think it only works if you have somebody in there who gets the ball all the time and who, when they get the ball on the edge of the area, opponents are thinking, we've got to stop him getting a good shot off. And if we don't stop him, and if we do try and do that, he might also play a killer pass. So I think I said this to you guys off air last week, but I don't think Maddison, for example, is as good as any of the players in that front four for England. I do think he would make the team a lot more functional. Because if you give Maddison consistently the ball on the edge of the D, people know that he's got a really good shot from range and he's a really creative passer. And then everybody else has freedom to make runs. Whereas right now, like Bellingham is not a creative 10.
Yeah.
He could do a little bit of it, but that's not how he played 10 this season. He played as a second striker, like a box-crashing midfielder, the way that like Dele Alli did when he was at his best at Spurs, He was not like creating a bunch of chances in that position. And Foden likes to get on the ball, but Foden has never really been a 10. That whole thing of like, you need to free him up. No, you don't. Pep doesn't do that. It just seems to me like nobody there is like, I have the responsibility to be the chief creative hub of this side. And it's international football. Like, people kind of do need simple roles. So from my point of view, if I want to try and fix things, I would probably say play Saka on the left to give you some width.
Left back or left mid?
I'd probably try him on the left wing, but you could play him left back and then you can get in another winger. But I still think that allows you to get in another attacker. But what I'm saying as well is that I think I would probably play a 3-man midfield with like Bellingham and like Eze or something, and say to Eze, you're that guy.
So not Mainoo. So you'd have Rice drop in further.
I don't see what Mainoo's meant to do.
Yeah.
Like, I like him. I think he's a very promising player. He looks really bright when he comes on because he turns and runs, and that's really the only thing he's shown at this stage of his career. But Mainoo, we have not seen him be a creative passer. I mean, he's played very limited minutes, and he might grow into that, but he's not that now. He's not a progressive passer. He might grow into it, but he's not that now. So what is he meant to do? Like, to me, that's just a change that Southgate makes because he's like, I like this player, people like this player. He does look bright, but there's not a specific problem with the team that Mainoo fixes. Like, does he give them width? No. Does he give them creativity from midfield? No. So he can do stuff, but he can't do what England need. So to me, I would probably be playing at this point Palmer, Kane, Saka on the left, and then Bellingham, Eze, Rice in midfield.
So drop Foden as well.
Well, you can play Foden on the right as well.
Yeah,
it honestly doesn't matter. But the point is, I think Bellingham's job needs to be make runs into the box and also, tackle back. And then there needs to be a guy who you're like, when the ball is in the middle of the park, it is yours. It's not, is this Saka's? Is this Foden's? Is this Bellingham's? Is Kane dropping deep? It needs to be like Harry Kane get in the box. Bellingham wait for the run. And the other guys hold the width. And then there's one guy, especially someone like Eze, who I think is just I think he's a better ball carrier than Mainoo because he's an older, more experienced player, and he's also got creativity and he's also got the ability to score goals. I don't see what Mainoo does at the moment that Eberechi Eze doesn't do, and I'm a big fan of Mainoo. It's just that he's really young.
Yeah.
So that to me is the issue. I think the mix of profiles is wrong. I think the spacing on the pitch is totally wrong. And I agree with what you guys are saying in that Southgate's like, this isn't working. What's the minimum number of changes I can make? As opposed to, why is it not working? And if I have to make 11 changes to make it work, that is what I should do. The thing is, they could still win the tournament because, like,
on a good side of the draw,
they're very defensive. It doesn't matter. They're on an easy side of the draw. Though you could also imagine Austria, for example.
Well, Austria are out.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Switzerland.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah. But you could easily imagine like Switzerland doing to them what they did to Italy. Yeah. Just holding them at bay and being like no offense, but like you're not playing farmers.
Yeah.
Like, we are a sophisticated team who know each other's roles, know what we're doing. A bunch of them, Ricardo Rodriguez, for example, like never turned into a star, but he and Cher and Xhaka and all these guys have been playing together for such a long time.
They know each other very well. They're almost a club side in that.
It's
that
great.
way, aren't they?
He has to have more faith in his squad. It's not as if other teams. Yeah. Like other teams have suspensions where players drop out and they just will be able to bring people in. I don't think Çalhanoğlu even played for Turkey the other night against Austria.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you have to have confidence in your squad to put players in and be like, right, it's now your turn. You can't be going, Wharton's not ready, so-and-so's not ready.
To a degree, I'm not saying you're wrong, but to a degree, he has done that with like he dropped Trent for. It wasn't like a crazy one where he was like, it did take him a little while to get to Mainoo. Yeah, and then after that, he dropped Gallagher for Mainoo.
Yeah, but this is just like one game after another.
I do agree.
And also, it's just like this guy's kind of getting pelters from like the fans, and an experiment isn't really worth it if you're like, I tried it once and it didn't work, and so I'll never try it again. If that's the case, you will never ever get good at anything. Before the tournament, he should have been thinking, this is going to be our setup, and this is how we're going to deal with problems. This is how we're going to deal with going a goal down. But you are in this situation. I mean, it was the nightmare scenario for them against Slovakia, because when they went a goal down, you watched them and you were like, I don't think they're ever going to score. I really thought they were never going to score, and in the end they scored almost like by an act of God. Like by Jude Bellingham doing something so improbable because he's incredible that you were just like, well, genius does sometimes help you out.
Do you think this is the first time as well? Like, I think back to obviously 2018, there was no expectations, and so there was no pressure really. Like, everyone expected England to. If you look back at the squad, wasn't necessarily incredible. Eric Dyer was playing at the back, for instance, right? Like, not to put a discredit on him, but like, you compare the squad, you've got a much better squad nowadays.
I wish Eric Dyer was in the squad right now.
Yeah, with the way things are going. But in 2018, not a lot of pressure. It was a nice surprise that England went on to go to the semi-finals, and again, draw kind of helped them out, but they went on to do it. And then obviously the next Euros in 2021. They went to the final, and again, there wasn't so much pressure to get there. Qatar, there was pressure, but they got knocked out by France, so it was understandable. This, I feel like, is the first time where they've started having a bit more like players you can see, especially in the media and articles as well. Players are like feeling it. They're coming out like as if they're almost, and on the pitch, they're all worried to make a mistake.
I just can't believe it. Like, this whole boo-hoos, the press are being mean to us thing is absurd. I'm like, let's run through the teams they've played in so far. A spent Denmark, Serbia, who can't get it together in international tournaments. So, look, don't get me wrong, Slovenia, I like them, but
England should be beating
them.
Yeah.
should be beating them.
Yeah.
4 turgid, dreadful performances, and they're like, Bellingham scores that, goes, it's nice to give a bit back. It's nice to give it back. I'm like, you scored a bicycle kick after doing nothing. And again, don't get me wrong, incredible goal.
They've scored one, and they've won one of those games.
Yeah, you've won one game. How can you possibly suggest to us that we're like, people have paid good money to go out and watch that team. People have gone getting together, spending good money to watch the teams back at home. Like, just be a bit entertaining. Like, you can see other teams doing it. Basically, every Turkey game has been excellent to watch. I don't think we're expecting like blockbuster football. We're expecting England to like leave it out there at the moment, and they're not doing it. And like, I don't get the narrative that the pressure is on them to succeed. And they're going, it's really hard for us to replicate our form in the big teams, and we come here. It's like, other teams seem to be able to do it. Every other team seems to be able to just get it together and play with each other. I wonder if maybe Southgate left out too many big personalities in the squad that kind of glued together.
Yeah, there's that stuff about Grealish not being there, wasn't there?
Grealish, maybe Rashford. I'm not saying that these guys definitely deserve to be there for that reason, but there is a dynamic to how these teams are picked. And there is something clearly missing in that squad. Even Maguire not being there as well. I mean, how many times has Maguire just been a cheat code where we've had corners, whipped them in, and just scored a header? And we're like, well, we're ahead now, so we can.
I also just
that one's just due to injury, though, isn't it? Like that one, I think he would have gone otherwise.
But also all the personality stuff. You're like, the personality stuff feels like it goes a bit out the window when you see like Ivan Toney there, who I do think is like notoriously a pain in the ass. And every time in a press conference I see him say anything, I'm like, this guy's an idiot. Like, I cannot stand this guy.
He said recently about like apparently there was
oh my god,
he had a grumpy like he was not happy being brought on when he was brought on.
He's lucky to even be in the squad.
Like, he's whining about it. It's just like, you should still be banned. Shut up. Like, this whole thing of just like, oh well, I came on in like the last minute. It's like, yeah, because like you're the third best centre forward in the squad. Like, why are you coming on at all? Like,
He did play well.
Yeah, but I think he's got abilities. It's just that I think, it seems ridiculous to say, well, it's about managing the personalities and, like having the right blend of kind of types of people in the squad. And then you're like, but Ivan Toney's coming. Like, to me, especially because you're like, there are quite a lot of problems in the squad that would be solved by a Jack Grealish. Really, there are, like a game-breaking ball hog who can ride challenges and create. Like Jack Grealish, I don't really care what form he's been in. Like, he has that ability. It just seems like, oh God. To me, I just think that what Henry's saying about wanting to watch a more entertaining England, I think you could argue against that if England were just winning their games. If England were winning 1-0, 2-0, and they were playing the most boring football, but you were like, but they're still winning. And do you want to win the tournament or not? You can make the argument. But the thing is, the football Henry's arguing for, more entertaining football, would also, I think, be significantly more effective than the football they're playing.
It's winning football, isn't
so what you're playing is like bad football that also doesn't work. What is there? What is there here? Like, France are playing bad football, but like, except for this Belgium game, like they have broadly been significantly superior to their opponents in all their games. Yeah. And even in the Belgium game, like Belgium didn't trouble them. Like, not really.
Yeah.
Like, so.
Well, he's definitely. Sorry, go on, Hannes.
I will just say, the whole kind of public being on England, I think that everyone is ready, not so much to forgive them, to support them, if they just put in a good performance. If they go out there and beat Switzerland, everyone's like, right, that's fine. They're finally like woken up. Here we go. Yeah. But it's not like every game has just been a constant flop. How many shots we've had? I think Spain had more shots on target against Georgia in one half than we've had in the whole tournament.
How many chances are we making? Like
I said, 18th at the tournament for chances created. And bearing in mind, that's of all the teams at the tournament, so a load of those have gone out.
Yeah.
You've made fewer chances than like Croatia, who didn't get out. Like, I mean, it's insane.
It is ridiculous. Like, you just think back to the game so far, and it's just not blending. And you know what? I think to his credit, on previous tournaments, Southgate has actually picked a squad based on the football, on it gelling together. He hasn't minded he's never minded like not starting. There was that time when he wasn't starting Jack Grealish, and instead he was having
which was fine.
He'd had Rashford played, Sterling played, and it worked. But this time
they could also use either of those guys. Honestly,
very true. But this time it feels like he's kind of chucked it out the window and gone more for the like, okay, let's bring the guys. Then let's throw a few random names in here. No, exactly.
Well, and
it doesn't quite make sense.
But you're right. Like, formation feels like it's kind of come first this time. Whereas in the past, when people are like, he's wedded to this formation, it's like, well. He ended up being wedded to that three at the back formation. But I think at first he was like, this best fits the talent I've got. Everyone plays a role they know in this setup. And I do think that was borne out. Like, it generally looked pretty good. Yeah. But it's just funny that going into this tournament, I remember like before the tournament started, we were talking about the defence. We were just like, the defence, my God, like the personnel, it's really... thanks to injuries and stuff, like it's really gone downhill. You could have had like a genuinely great like back four, and now and actually the defense is like far from being the biggest problem. Like, far and away from, like, has Gay looked like amazing? Not particularly. Has Trippier been good? No. But the defense has broadly been, like, certainly statistically very good. With the occasional, like, disaster.
If you watch the games every night, there's a couple of moments where you go, Jesus Christ.
And the goal they conceded the other night was like absolutely horrific. But that said, like, that's happened to everybody because their defense is still like conceding very little in XG, very little in chances. It's allowing them to push up the pitch and like dominate territory. The problem is in the part of the pitch where pretty much everybody is, if not world class, then very close to it. And to me, like that suggests the issue is blend. Like it's not talent. I really do think playing Saka on the left and saying stay wide would go such a long way to fixing this team. Or playing somebody on the left who would stay wide, like not Foden, but somebody who will actually do it. Gordon, even if you played like, it doesn't matter who you play. You can play Ollie Watkins out there, but as long as you say to him, stay wide, and then you make runs from out to in. When the ball's on the other side of the pitch, your job is to make the back post run. And then you've got someone like Kane, Bellingham, Watkins crashing the box, while guys like Saka and Palmer and Foden or whoever it is are delivering the ball from the right. I think that is a very scary prospect for any team in the world to face.
Yeah, definitely. And it also, hopefully, obviously with the game of Switzerland on Saturday, hopefully it seems like Luke Shaw might be back in the side.
Oh my God, I genuinely think he'll make you look instantaneously functional.
Yeah, definitely. Trippier.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure on Luke Shaw to go from playing nothing.
Especially because are they not like... Can Luke Shaw play football ever again?
Yeah, supposedly he might be fit. We'll see. But mate, I can't see another 90 minutes of Foden gets the ball out on the left. He passes it Trippier. Trippier can't use his left foot. Takes it to his right. Goes backwards all the time. All these like useless, like there's like
in his defense though, that is the player he is. Like,
for sure.
You know, like, everyone's angry with but everyone's angry with Trippier about it, and I'm like, I just don't think. Like he is what he is. Like he's like a 32-year-old player or something. Like he's not going to grow a left foot now.
I just think Cher, Akanji, Rodriguez, Xhaka, and Freuler are going to be
Xhaka might be out actually.
I know he seemed to post on Instagram suggesting that he'll be right.
He is the world's most durable man. Like he is incredible.
I think he'll just.
He'll just get on with it.
They'll just protect him and he'll just ping passes.
Yeah. Those 5 people, I think they'll be looking at this thing and we can shut these guys out.
And Ndoye as well, like has been a real like dribble threat. And as we said, there have been moments in this tournament where like Gay and Stones like just do not look like they know whose responsibility is what. It's like they're playing like tennis. You know when you're playing doubles and you both try and go to the net at the same time, or like you both drop off at the same time and you're just getting absolutely hammered.
It screams of a new partnership, doesn't it? Because I actually think,
which is fair. It's fair enough.
I think they've, out of all the players at the moment, they're probably the ones you wouldn't mention. And
there
actually,
is too much passing coming out of Gay.
Well, I was going to say, for Switzerland, Gehi's not going to be there.
Is Colwell injured?
Colwell was injured, yes. Yeah, that's why.
When you say he was injured, is he not now?
I think he's okay now. Like I think he's meant to be going to pre-season.
He would have been quite a useful player to take.
But he hadn't. I think his last game was like March, so he hadn't played.
I would say I'd rather get he injured than Stones. So
yeah.
Like at least Constable coming next Stones, and Stones be like, right, this is what we're doing. Yeah. Let's get it done.
So I don't mind Constable coming in at all. I think Constable's a better him than Lewis Dunk.
Oh my God,
for sure. In terms of anyone else that. We mentioned obviously England might be going to a 3 at the back. Interesting.
So that means Kyle Walker will drop into centre half.
Yeah.
And they'll be another right back. But that does mean if any injuries happen, the only option we have off the bench is Lewis Dunk. And I'm sorry, he has put in some absolute horror shows this year against in the.
But you change formation. You can always change formation back.
Okay.
And then also like I guess if you had to stick to it, like Declan Rice has played like he's.
Yeah, but then you're destabilising another part of the pitch. Like I mean, I don't think the back 3 would be that bad if it's basically saying, okay, that means Saka or Gordon is going to play left wing back, and that's how you get your win.
Yeah.
But these are all answers to the same question. Like that's exactly what you're saying. Like if you play a back 4 with Saka or Gordon playing like left back, you are trying to solve the same problem. But if you go to the back 3, you're actually putting another defender on the pitch and taking an attacker off the pitch from a team which has been decent defensively and horrible in attack. Yeah. So the balance might change, but the numbers also are like not going in the right direction. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
So in a way, it's like it's meant to be an attacking change, but it actually feels conservative. I'm not saying it wouldn't work, but like you could just say, you know what? We've got John Stones, we've got Declan Rice, like we've got Kyle Walker. Even those guys alone, even leaving out Gay and Trippier, those guys should be enough to cover ground in such a way that we can like get more attacking and just like accept that we're going to be broken on a little bit.
Yeah.
Like those guys are amazing at dealing with that stuff. That's what they do for their clubs all the time.
All the time.
But yeah, I just think at this point it's just crazy that he's like when you're watching the game, sorry, I don't know if this is boring, but like when you're watching the game, I was just like, for some reason as well, by the way, every time I say like, well, I'm not an England fan, like or whatever, like people get really angry with me. I get replies from people who are like, stop pretending you're not English, like, you know, you sort of give it a rest or whatever. And I was just like, that's such a weird thing to say to somebody, like you are English. It's just like, it's actually a thing that the English don't tend to say to people. They tend to say you don't belong here, but like watching England, like genuinely, I find myself getting angry in that I'm just like, do something, make a substitution. You have all these substitutions. You have loads of play. You have a bench that would be the envy of almost every team in this tournament, and he's just like, and he seems to have like no imagination. He would just watch it not work for like 50 minutes and be like, oh, that's not good, is it? Kobe Manu, put him on, and like I just think, and it's crazy to be like this 19-year-old who's got like one season in which the only thing he's popped in is like ball carrying. Again, not his fault. Again, I think highly of him. It just seems insane to be like, I guess if like what's happening in his mind when he thinks I will put Manu on? What does he think is going to change about the game?
But I think he doesn't want to check. Like, for instance, I think a lot of the guys he's starting, he thinks they should be the answer.
It's honestly so boring.
Foden came out saying that they're not doing what he's telling them to do.
Like, they're not doing what Gareth is telling them to do.
Yeah, they're like, he is telling us to do these things, and we're just, for some reason in the games,
not gelling,
not doing it properly sometimes. And Foden has said that the big players recognise that they need to be doing more, which is like refreshing.
Them to do it though.
But then you're not giving them the assets to be able to do it. Right?
Yeah,
like, you're not giving them a winger on the left wing.
This reminds me of when Sam Allardyce, you know, they'd have footage of his like pre-match talk, and he'd be like, win second balls, like win balls in the air, and you're like, yeah, everyone wants to do those. You can't just tell people to do it, and they'll do it.
I do think though, as much as Southgate, we'll get on to his future. There has to be an element with these big players where they take it on. Like, I think Cesc Fabregas said it perfectly in the first game about Foden. Like these guys have to take this game by the scruff of the neck and make a difference and use some of their individual brilliance, which is what we've been raving about all year. Like, when it's going down, like we saw Bellingham do with the bicycle kick, whatever, we have to see more of that.
Yeah.
Like there has to be more sparks of magic or whatever, and because this is international football, it's not going to be the best football of all time, and you are going to be relying on your big players to do big things, and we haven't seen nearly enough of that from any of the major stars in our team this tournament so far.
Definitely.
I don't really agree with that. Like, I mean, I know what you're saying. Like, I know what you're saying. Like, you want them to like show who they are and like, you know, produce something out of nothing or whatever. But you're like, that is not. The manager has a separate job from that, right? I agree. The manager can't control kind of like the magic, and to a certain degree, neither can the players. Like, I just think.
I think you can expect more from Phil Foden.
Like I know, but I would actually say though that sometimes telling the big players you've got to take the game by the scruff of the neck, you've got to like create magic, sometimes makes it worse, because that's when you get like Harry Kane dropping to the halfway line and trying to spray passes.
No, I know.
And if when he does that, he's got runners, great, but he doesn't because everyone's in the middle of the park.
Okay. I'm more just.
I know what you mean.
I'm more just saying the big players have to be better.
Yeah, I agree.
They just have to. You can't just go, it's just the system and Southgate's wrong the entire time. Like, they just have to be a little bit better.
Yeah. I know, but sometimes you do. But sometimes you do watch a team where like the best player is like, I've got to do something here, and I'd actually say there's been quite a lot of this
Ronaldo free kicks.
There's been quite even with Bellingham. There've been moments in this tournament where I've been like, Bellingham really thinks I've got to do something here, but the version of doing that, like that he has in mind, is actually counterproductive, because it's like, I'll get on the ball, I'll try and beat four guys, and then you just run into traffic and lose the ball. And I'm
not saying be individualistic. We saw it against Denmark where
Foden
dodged around a few players and he should have just slotted Kane in, and he just took a shot instead. I'm talking about being sensible. I'm talking about like little clutch moments at points in the game where you're just like, you are better than the opposition player. Surely you guys have that instinct in you, that world-class instinct to just help the England team a bit more. Because I just think like the bigger players need to take on a bit more responsibility, which is what Phil Foden has said. Yeah. If they're gonna keep being picked and justify being in the starting lineup, I just want to see a little bit more than them. By the way, there is a good chance we beat Switzerland. There is a good chance that we get our way through this game.
Everything
and it's
changes.
all right.
There's a good chance England win the tournament playing the worst football of all time.
Beat Switzerland.
Like
and
Greece.
Through to the semi-finals, and they'd play either the Netherlands or Turkey.
But Greece couldn't physically do anything else.
True.
And it was one of the most beautiful things of all time.
But England, like now, you look at that draw and you're like, and before the tournament, if I'd said to you guys, England going to be in the quarterfinals against Switzerland, and then after that they will play either Turkey or the Netherlands to make the final, you'd have been like, oh my god, this is amazing.
100%.
And now you look at it and you're like, boy, this is I don't know. Like I kind of think like the Netherlands is the most talented squad in there, but the Netherlands is the team I probably would want to play the most.
Yeah.
The Netherlands are kind of a bit like England.
Yeah.
Whereas like Turkey and Switzerland, I think are quite scary prospects for this England.
Can I also say one thing? All these YouTubers doing Euro predictors before the tournament, what a waste of time. Never watch any of those videos because it never ever works out. Because all they ever do is they go, oh, France will finish top of their group, or Germany will finish top of their group.
I think I did that.
Well, yeah, no, of course. As you should have. But guess what?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone in the
you can't
world
predict it. You can never
predicted the
predict
groups as they. So yeah,
it's impossible to predict. Like it's always impossible. Okay, then let's have a little look then towards past the Euros, past what could be for Gareth Southgate, and see where we could be come the next tournaments. Firstly, how do you look at Gareth's time in charge of England? 2018, you'd say exceptional.
Exceptional.
Yeah? Okay.
And he is statistically
I think there are a lot of
the most
people-
successful manager since Alf Ramsey.
For sure. But I think there are a lot of people that say with the talent he's had and the squads he's had and stuff that maybe England should have gone a little bit further. Which is tough to do, to be fair. Like,
They could have made
semi-finals
the
of a World
final in
Cup,
2018,
They
but you
could
know
have
that's
won it
not
in
really on
Italy.
him.
They could have won it in Italy, which I think maybe to a degree is a little bit on him. When
The squad was not as good in 2018 as it is now.
No, nowhere near. 2018 definitely not. Like I think
That was genuinely an incredible.
It was
feat,
a
I
set
think.
piece domination. Is what it was.
People like
Harry Maguire player as well.
people have to remember we had a great squad under Sven-Goran Eriksson, a very good manager,
Yeah.
and yet we couldn't get past Portugal in 2 tournaments running.
Squad was wild.
So would I say? So if I said to you,
Yeah,
would
that
you
squad
want-
had 3 guys in it who people claim are 3 or 4 guys who are all separately claimed as the best Premier League midfielder of all time.
yeah.
And
also like one of
they
the best
couldn't get
forwards of
into
all
like
time.
the quarters.
Yeah, like also we had Wayne Rooney in there. And, like,
it is a bit big.
a very
Mendes
good
was too
defence.
much for them, yeah.
But anyway, yes, very quickly. Would you have Gareth Southgate in charge of the 2026 World Cup?
I personally think that the performance against France in Qatar was one of our best performances against a major team in a tournament, and that felt like the end of Southgate's time. I think we went out against France playing actually pretty good football, and
The penalty wasn't it?
the
Penalty missed
the
as
France England game was the best. Was in quality was the best game at the Qatar World Cup, and I genuinely believe we would have beaten Argentina in the final. I know people seem to think I hate Argentina. I really don't. That was almost as far as he could take it. I get why they kept him on. We should also remember everyone's like, "Oh, he's wasted a golden generation." Well, who else would have managed us? Like, there's no guarantee that we'll get the managers.
Keep in mind,
we
by the
want.
way, we had Sam Allardyce as manager going into 2018.
People keep going to me.
No.
People keep going to me. Oh, Pep Guardiola. will,
What's he up to?
Pep will take on the England job afterwards. I'm like,
What?
Are you saying, like, people going to me? Imagine if Pep was our manager. I'm not imagining if Pep
Pep's
was our
third
manager.
favourite.
Do they think
Take
Pep
over.
like loves England?
Yeah,
or
they do.
something?
They do.
They think
They
they're like,
genuinely
oh
do.
well, he's lived here for years. Like
the longest place
when
he's
they used to
been.
say about Arsene Wenger, it made sense because Arsene Wenger was like, I've lived in England for like a quarter of a century, and like my daughter was like born and raised like I love England. Like Pep Guardiola was like, I'm here for a job. He
I'm
doesn't
pretty
have any
convinced
connection to England.
There's a Spanish restaurant in Manchester which him and a few of the lads just go to, and that is his solace. And I don't really think that he gives a monkeys about. And I don't mean that disrespectfully at all. Completely fair enough. Yeah, the idea that he would want to manage England is absurd. I think this is irrevocable. Even if we win the tournament, this is irrevocably the end of Southgate's time in charge. For him as well. Like, why does he want to keep doing this job where he just gets hammered every time things go wrong? He has done he has given us reasons to believe we can win tournaments again. He has done an exceptional job considering he had a pretty awful club career going into this. I think he has laid the foundations for whoever comes in next to really take on England and do something good with it. We must shake his hand and move on.
He's done an incredible job, especially I think behind the scenes and getting kind of players going to international camps and looking forward to it and enjoying the way they're playing together and getting rid of that kind of previous. You mentioned the kind of golden generation, how they all basically hated each other.
Apparently, Gary Neville used to get all the Manchester guys, and they'd all go for lunch before everyone else, and they'd all sit.
Crazy.
What school ground nonsense.
But that's what it was, and I think Gareth Southgate's done a very good job at making sure that kind of era has gone. Another question here that is interesting: should the next coach be English? There's been a lot of things said about again going back to our political side. I think actually, if you look at tournament winners in the last,
I believe you're suggesting
years,
giving a job to a foreigner,
or is it ever since, or something like that? But there is basically a stat that the winning coach of the Euros and the World Cup has only not been from the country that they're managing twice. Ooh. One was Greece, and I think one was quite far back. So, is there something in that?
No. Not that like leads to success. No.
Okay.
Like I don't think that that happened because like that teams have won the tournament because their manager is from that country. Though I guess like language can be a factor, but like it's just because most international nations are managed by people from that country. Like most countries who have lots of good players and could win the tournament also have good coaches. Like that's inevitably the case. I just think you have to pick the best guy for the job because you can't waste these players.
So would you...
if there's an English guy who you think is going to do the job well, then like get an English guy. But if there isn't, I don't think that you should say, well, we limit the pool to English guys.
Shall I give you the favourites?
What about that guy? What about Eddie Howe's like right-hand man? He'd love it.
Tyndall.
Give him $5 million a year. He'd love it. That's the thing. That is also the thing. Like you are paying like Gareth Southgate's like, oh, he takes so much abuse. And like, yeah, sure. But like,
he's the highest paid international
He
manager.
gets paid like $5 million a year, which is what, 100k a week?
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's not too bad.
Like people are calling me a dick on social media. Like
you'd accept the abuse. What about just before I get into the other favourites? What about going kind of the Gareth Southgate route? And one of the possible favourites is Lee Carsley, currently the under-21 manager. Won the Euros with the under-21 side as well. You wouldn't go through that side? Like, that's kind of what happened with Gareth Southgate, and it worked out pretty well. He knew a lot of the players when they came into the side.
If you set a precedent that if you manage the under-21s, you have a strong chance of managing the national team. We'll see people like, I don't know, Gary Monk taking that job, and I'm a bit worried. Look, Lee Carsley's done a really good job, and I think it's really important for the main manager to have a good relationship with the under-21s manager. But at this moment in time, with the position our players are in, I think you need someone with a bit more stature to come on and...
So what about these names?
Potter.
So what about these names? Graham Potter, Eddie Howe, Pep Guardiola's favourite, Pochettino, Gerrard, Steve Cooper.
Did you say Gerrard?
Yeah, apparently he's one of the ones there. Or Thomas Tuchel. There are a few names there.
Well, you're not going to get Tuchel.
There are a few names there where you think...
No. Weirdly enough.
There are a few names there that I think are...
You're not going to get Tuchel. Pochettino is a really bad choice because just the nature of Pochettino's football, I think, is almost uniquely poorly suited to the structure of international football. I think you need somebody who can coach modern pressing football, but in a relatively simple way. I think that is why Jesse Marsch is doing well with Canada. I think that is why Ralph Rangnick was doing well with Austria. Like I think Switzerland play like a fairly modern style, but in a pared down, like simplified way. Argentina did it at the World Cup under Scaloni. Like that is the kind of football that you need to play, I think, which is like we press and we like counter press, but we are not like some intricate kind of like, cuckoo clock. Like I just don't think that you can get away with that at the international level. Your team doesn't have enough time together. One player can get injured and miss the tournament and everything falls apart. Like it just doesn't, it's not sustainable to me. You need you need a less fragile setup than that. So to me, I think Potter would be fine, but I think Potter is like possibly in this zone. Though maybe not. I think he could do a simplified version of what he does. And I think it'd be quite interesting. Honestly, I do think, like, would Ralph Rangnick take that job?
Yeah, I thought that'd be fun as well.
I think that'd make a lot of sense. Like, Ralph Rangnick has his weaknesses as a club manager, but as an international manager, I think he's pretty good. I don't think Austria at the tournament were as good as I thought they were going to be. I think the underlying numbers were never quite as good as they sort of looked when you watch them.
Do you know if that's personnel based?
Like, yeah, it might be. And England don't have those personnel issues. But he speaks the language. He's a good coach. He's very good with young players. He is quite adaptable. He actually does have a good track record at club level. You know, as much as like people like Michael Cox absolutely despise him, he does have a good track record at club level. I think the kind of football he plays really would make sense for the guys that you've got. Like, it doesn't matter if sometimes you're a little bit naive and you're leaving space at the back.
Yeah.
If you do have Declan Rice covering, at the same time, you've got to face the fact that in the next few years, Walker,
So we'll get onto this. We'll get
and
onto
certainly
this issue here.
Kane.
Yeah.
These guys are all going to go.
The future,
but that's where system can cover for a lack of talent. Like, talent is going to go one way or another, and continuing to play a kind of like, well, the good players will do good things, like style of football is just not a good idea.
Go on, then.
Just thinking with my FA hat on, who actually they will pick, and I think Rangnick is a good idea, but realistically, I think Eddie Howe is actually
the guy.
Because I think his time at Newcastle, if they don't,
He's better than that. I think.
I
think he's better than that, though.
Better than
You think
England.
he'd go?
Yeah,
He's so young.
No, I think his time with Newcastle
Sure.
could end this season if they don't.
If they don't do so well, yeah.
And the reality is, the England job is well paid. It is for an English manager. I think it is a big deal to manage England.
Yeah.
Definitely,
I think he does. I think that a charm offensive to get him on board wouldn't be too hard. I think realistically, Eddie Howe would be a really fun, great choice for England.
I
If
think
Howe's available, definitely.
it's interesting when they would make the decision with Southgate, because it might have to coincide with, say, like Newcastle playing poorly, if you get what I mean, for that decision for that Newcastle to let him go and then to bring him in. Like,
They're chomping at the bit to get some like world famous manager in. So,
And you can at least talk to them about it.
Yeah.
You can at least say, like, you can at least talk to Eddie Howe now. And there might come a point in the season where Eddie Howe's like, the club wants to fire me, rather than like fighting for my life. I could just quit being the manager. You know, that might be
paid a lot
that
of
might
money.
be nice. But Eddie Howe, the thing about Eddie Howe is Eddie Howe has shown an ability which Southgate I do not think has, which is Eddie Howe was, how to put this,
not a good defensive.
I would say a very limited manager in his time at Bournemouth.
yeah, you weren't a fan.
I was not a fan. He was very limited.
Yeah.
And what did he do when he
He
was
went-
unemployed?
yeah.
He went to Atleti.
With Simeone.
And not just Atleti. I think he went to a couple of places and looked at different styles of football and looked how they were coached and tried to learn how to do it, and ended up coaching, I would say, a pretty high level defensive press.
It speaks
at
volumes,
Newcastle.
I think, yeah.
And getting the best out of some exceptionally limited players. Well, that is something that you haven't really seen from Southgate. Southgate has a lot of time sitting on his ass. Like, as in, like, there are huge swathes of the year where
definitely.
Southgate actually could go and do that.
From what is it?
Right?
From November to March, they don't go. Like, there's no international fixtures.
He has so much time to go and do it, and I get that it's nice to like go to to go and get a box seat at like Old Trafford or whatever. Though actually, maybe not Old Trafford, but at a good stadium with a roof. I bet that it's nice for him to do that, but. If he said to the FA, I'm going to go and spend 3 months, like I'm going to call in a favour and I'm going to go and watch I'm going to go and watch Pep. Like I'm going to go and watch Pep and Arteta. I'm going to watch Simeone. I'm going to watch, whoever Ancelotti, like whoever you want. I'm going to go and watch them and learn. I do think that he would be a much better coach, but it's the mindset that's important. And the fact that Howe had the mindset to go and do that and the humility to go and do it as a guy who'd already coached in the Premier League, I think says a lot about him and suggests that he has the ability to improve as a coach. If you just kind of sit around and you're like, I guess I'll see who's available the next time. Oh, who's doing well for Spurs? They can get in the squad. Then I think that you will always hit your limit much sooner.
One of the biggest factors, I think, of being in this in the job, and again probably the strongest factor I think that Gareth has had, is this kind of happy camp, making it work with the players there. How important, Henry, do you think that is for the next person? Like weighing it up with also trying to be maybe a bit more strict or trying to play a certain style of football. What is the most important factor for this guy?
I think it is really important. I mean, going back to the Austria, the idea a lot of those guys are actually come through Salzburg. I think even Slovakia.
Didn't he also pick a lot of people from the Austrian league?
Well,
he said he was going to.
Yeah.
That didn't quite transpire. I think he did that a lot more in friendlies and the qualifiers. even like the Slovakia team, I think there was a stat like the amount of times that these guys had all played together growing up. I do think familiarity is important, and I would hate to go back to the tribalism of previous.
Well, do you think it's like also kind of coming, maybe not from manager-wise, but I felt like this tournament in particular, fan-wise, seeing a lot more than I felt like we ever did in the last couple of tournaments of like fans being like, oh, of course Bukayo Saka would do that, or of course Phil Foden would do that, or something like that. But do you not think that's started to come back a bit more as well? This tournament in particular.
What do you mean? Like,
so then, like, from a fan point of view, right, I feel like a lot of people being like, are giving hate on players because they are a Arsenal fan or a Spurs fan or a Chelsea fan or a United fan.
I guess we're back to a point where there was a short period where this didn't really exist, is where English players were spearheading kind of title charges.
Yeah, true.
Maybe that's completely factually incorrect, but it just feels like there's a lot of like elite English players at the top of their game at their clubs. So I can understand people arriving at that, but no, I think whoever takes the job next will have the sensibility to know that we can't just let these guys dictate the atmosphere and the dressing room.
Yeah.
So I'm not concerned by that.
I don't really, and I also think if you look at the squad as well, there's not like, I feel like players nowadays, especially the English players, aren't necessarily like, I own this dressing room. Really, like you mentioned Ivan Toney earlier, but a lot of the guys, I think, when you look at that England squad,
if Ivan Toney tried to do that in the England dressing room, I'm sure they'd be like,
"What are you doing?
You play for Brownfield, shut up."
You also have to remember that this England team are very much documented the whole time they're there. You can watch all their interactions on YouTube, and a lot of people like that now. Like, I know my housemate watches all of their kind of. He's always telling me, you won't believe who's friends with each other and stuff like that." I think Trent and Jude Bellingham are huge friends, like Wharton and Gordon, etc. Like. They can't all be dicks to each other because it's all on camera at the moment. So that's negated a little bit.
Okay. All right, let's go through a few of these issues then. Now, the next head coach, possibly Eddie Howe, possibly Potter, whoever, possibly Ralph Rangnick, could be facing. I think one of the biggest ones, the Harry Kane replacement. Next World Cup, he'll be 32. I think probably still be okay for that.
Yeah.
Euros after that, he'll be 34, so on and so forth. Right now, it doesn't feel like we necessarily have like an incredible crop of English strikers coming through. Not to say that, by this time, some of these guys who are like 19 and such could be 21, 23 at the next tournament. So maybe they'll be a bit more higher profile by then. But Harry Kane is one of the best strikers in the world. Will we have one of them in the next 5 years? And what do we do if we don't?
Well, if you look at the top 10 goal scorers in the Premier League last year, a good chunk of them were English. So I'm not worried about that. Even if you look at Morata leading the line for Spain, he's not an elite goal scorer, but they're able to make it work around them. We have the personnel to work around a drop-off in forwards. And even if we went to two up front and use like two of the guys who are scoring pretty frequently week in, week out for their club side, then I'm not necessarily concerned by that so much. I still think Kane, given the fact that he doesn't really run that much, he's not a sprinter, I still think at the next Euros we'll still be seeing him lead the line for England, but maybe in a slightly more reduced capacity.
34's not too bad.
What do you think?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like, is Kane a drop-off to the person behind him? Like, yeah, sure. Will it be a drop-off? Sure. But like, if by the next, World Cup, you've got a reliably fit left back, then like you gain more than you lose in a way. And look, when Kane ages out, you will have like Watkins is not young, but he's younger than Kane. So Kane can age out and you'll still have Watkins, or I don't know, I guess you've got guys like Solanke. Like you do have people who are behind him who are not as good as him, but who are younger and are decent like Premier League goal scorers. And it doesn't matter. Like, you can play Bellingham there. Like, that's the thing. Like, the next manager might be like, I'll play Bellingham there. And like, is he going to be as good as Kane? No. Is he good enough to win us a tournament? Yes. Like, especially if he's got Palmer, Saka, Foden, like all these guys around him, like Maddison, Eze. Like, there are always going to be interesting young talents coming through. You'll have Minu, who's a few years older. Like, he might be great. He might be a superstar. You might have like, rather than Walker by then, you might have a fit Reece James playing right back. Suddenly, that's a huge creative weapon. Like, there are so many things that can happen about the squad that I just think there's no point worrying about like what happens when Kane goes, because Kane will go.
Yeah.
Time will pass. Kane will go.
Just like how Rooney went.
But you're still going to have to. You're still going to have to go to tournaments. You're still going to have to replace the manager. So what happens with Kane, in a way, is like, see what happens when you get to that point, because there are so many other things that you should try and get right independently of that issue. Kane is going to age out one way or another.
Yeah, there's always to score goals than just a centre forward. Like, goals can come from elsewhere.
Very, very true.
There's no point fixating on it. You know, at this tournament, it's not like, exactly. It's not like every team has played a centre forward who has scored a bunch of goals for them.
Just to go back to Spain, Morata, again, good, not great. What he's gone is, all right, I'm going to put two unbelievable wingers next to him, and then the ball might drop to Morata to score. And if not, these two guys will come and do some madness.
And to be fair, it does have to be said, the England young talent that's down there, like in the under-18s, stuff like that, is really, really exciting. And winger-wise, especially, there are some fucking crazy exciting wingers coming through. But then, whilst England have talent, Spain have got talent. They've got 16-year-olds starting on the right wing week in, week out. Who's doing crazy things. Williams doing all right.
But England's pipeline is as good as anybody's.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah,
exactly. It is as good as Spain's. Exactly. It is as good. It is as good as France and Germany. Like where England falls behind a lot of those nations is in coaching.
Yeah,
like England is not producing those coaches, but there are some decent English coaches around. And like now, if England were ending up choosing between, say, like Potter and Howe for the England job, that's pretty good.
And that's also probably better than what we had last time, which was Southgate or Allardyce.
And those guys are better than Allardyce. They're better than Hodgson. Yeah. They're good coaches.
Yeah, I think the England squad in general, is getting to England are getting to a point where they are there was an era between the 2010 to 2016 where the squad wasn't that great, the managers weren't that great, and things just weren't looking fantastic. Like Raheem Sterling was obviously very young there, coming through, really good. But you had a squad that's still picking Jermaine Defoe up top, who was obviously a fine striker, but not
really old, like Gerrard. Yeah. They'd be like, we have to say Gerrard.
Andy Carroll was leading the line, and we were like,
I think they did all right in Euro 2012, whatever it was.
I don't know, man.
World Cup 2014.
But my point more so is just that the squad now and for the future of England looks really, really positive. And the changes that they made a few years back seem to be coming into effect.
Yeah.
But there we have it, guys. That is how we fix England. Let me know.
It'd be really funny if they win it now. If they win the tournament, that would be really funny.
But that's not something that we're saying they could never do. Half the thing with tournament football, just get through the stages and be good when you have to be good.
One of their wingers could just go on an insane tear, have 3 good games, and England win the tournament.
All it takes exactly. Or it takes a Harry Kane finding his feet again, which could not be that difficult. Or it takes a Jude Bellingham doing it, or Phil Foden.
Or you take a freak lead in one of these games instead of going behind. There are lots of ways that you can find yourself looking a lot better.
Football, it's just so. There is an element of it where a bit of luck just goes your way and you find yourself in the final, and then you're facing a France or a Spain or whoever it might be. But we will see. I've also got a few quickfire questions, guys, just because I thought I saw a comment saying bring it back, so I've decided to bring a few here. What is the best non-Premier League transfer so far? This is from Jay, who's been on the show.
Yeah, good guy.
And also, what do you think of KDH to Chelsea thoughts? First, we'll do the best non-Premier League transfer.
Well, I think we talked about it in the Football Daily group. I think Juventus are doing brilliant work. Really brilliant work. Rabiot, he's out of contract. I'm not sure whether he's going to stay there. Regardless, to get Douglas Luiz in.
Kefren Turam.
That looks like it's going to happen.
Kefren Turam looks good.
Kefren Turam as well. Teun Koopmeiners, they're now in for as well with Atalanta. I think you're saying we're ready for Juventus to be kind of fun again. And if they're making smart transfers like they're doing, if they found a bit of money, they've sort of bided their time and now decided now's the moment to attack and go after some young talent. Yeah, I think that is an exciting central midfield because the drop-off in quality in this Juventus side has been shocking.
Yeah.
And it's really shocking. So, yeah, I think Juventus so far are doing really nice business.
I really liked Dortmund have been linked to Turkey. Which I think could be really fun.
That feels like he needs someone to take control of his career and tell him he's not a star yet.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
This Kadiolu fella, at left back for Turkey. I think he's really good, and apparently Dortmund
And Arsenal.
and Arsenal both going for him. I think he's looks quality.
Well,
He's on the ball all
talking
the
about
time.
players who seem to be getting a transfer from a Euros tournament. Arsenal look like they're going in for Cagliari.
They even need it.
They're looking for a left back.
They're looking to get rid of Zinchenko as well.
They're
aren't
looking
they?
for a left back.
He's not a left back. He's left side centre back.
Well,
He can
neither's
play- he can
Kivior. Like Kivior and
Ben White
and
was
Tom-
never a right
and
back.
Tomiyasu are not
Ben
left
White was
backs,
never a
are they?
right back, was he?
And now he's amazing. And an example of a player
the new manager
who, like
could get-
Southgate's happy camp, has not actually extended to.
true. And also, the new manager could bring him back in, which would definitely help. Yeah, what do you think of him?
He's very exciting. I actually spoke to Ted Knutson about him on Ted's podcast, The Transfer Flow, so you can find that on your favourite podcast app. And I just basically was like, what do you think about this? Like, I know that he's a gooner, so I was like, tell me about this. But yeah, he's on the ball an awful lot. He's playing for a good defensive side last season. He is not like a creative passer from there, but he is a good passer from there. He is comfortable stepping into midfield. It's obviously a huge position of value for like Europe wide because he's 22 years old and he's left-footed.
Yeah.
He can play centre back or left back. Like that's very good.
He played a couple of games at left mid as well.
Yeah,
Crazy.
which is I think what Arsenal are looking for, right? Like they have this ability with White and Tomiyasu and Timber to all step into midfield from right back. Now Timber and Tomiyasu in theory can play at left back, but neither one of them is like a natural fit there.
Yeah.
And Tomiyasu has looked very good there when he's fit, but he's very rarely fit. So I think it makes a lot of sense. It looks like they're not far apart in valuation. Like supposedly Arsenal have offered like 37 mil and supposedly they want like 42 or something. If it,
Sell at 40 or something.
if it stops you going to get a central midfielder, I would not do
Yeah.
it because I think that's a much, much, much more pressing position for Arsenal. But I like the player. I rate the player highly. I don't know. Yeah, I think they should. I think this sounds like an exciting one. But
I do
but
worry
I agree about
sometimes-
Khéphren Thuram going to Juventus. I love that move. I think whoever gets him, like, is getting a really exciting player. And
Well,
I feel
for a
like
while
I'm
he was gonna go to
drawing a
Liverpool,
blank
didn't he?
on loads of these, but it feels like there have been lots of interesting
Borussia
ones.
Dortmund have nicked Girassi and Anton from Stuttgart, the captain of Stuttgart, who's a just no-nonsense, solid centre-half. And Girassi, I've always rated Girassi. So I think that's pretty... I think
good. He's
Dortmund are getting their business done early. They're going after targets they want. I like the fact they're not fixating on Sancho or Maatsen and stuff like that. They're going, okay, we're not getting him. We're going to go for this guy instead. Dortmund, I think, are a few good signings away from being very, very good.
I like that Atalanta are doing weird stuff. Like, Atalanta always do weird stuff, except for the Lookman thing, where I actually do feel like we, at the time, were like, this is great. He's always looked good in limited minutes. And it was this one of the thing like, oh, no, he's washed up. And, like, everybody who'd actually watched him at all
he's good.
was like, he's really good.
Yeah.
And then he's been insane. But they've got Ben Godfrey, right, for like 10 mil.
Oh, yeah, that's
They're
so
now
good.
doing Zaniolo, supposedly. And I was like, you know what? If there's one club in the world that can rehabilitate Zaniolo, it'll be them. Because, you know, like, the Qatar, like they're just capable of doing this.
Well,
Like,
they've got a
they're
fantastic manager in the system, haven't they? So, like...
and all their forwards eat. Like, every season their forwards eat. Like, they always get goals and
Crazy
assists
goals,
for their attackers. So I'm not saying that I think those will be like lights out signings. So I do think getting like Ben Godfrey for 10 mil is like
really
a
good.
crazy good price. But I'm intrigued every season by what they're up to. And isn't there a Milan? There's Milan are in for somebody. I just don't remember. Zach.
AC are always after a few players. I think they're
Exactly.
after another
Oh yeah, I mean he can go there.
Xerxes. Are they after Xerxes?
They've
Surprised.
agreed.
I thought he's going to
personal-
United.
Well, I think it's between the two. They've agreed
Love him
personal
to go to
terms.
United.
You're
Love
the
him
biggest
to go
man.
there. I just don't know. He's
You
right.
wanted Dewsbury Hall, did you?
As would you,
Yeah.
that's what Jay was asking here.
can't call
Dewsbury
him
Hall.
KDH.
I'm calling KDH, right?
Is he good enough for Chelsea for a Champions League team?
I think he
Champions
was.
League team.
I was very surprised.
to be.
I was very surprised that he didn't make the move last season. I think that was just due to loyalties and they'd already kind of got the money that they needed to get from James Maddison. I think the fee's not terrible. That was at 30 mil. I think he is a really solid player. Someone who I think what it does kind of feel like is will Gallagher then be there now? Almost feels like he's going to be taking that role. Definitely kind of good to have someone that at least understands the system that Maresca wants to be playing. I don't mind it. I genuinely just don't mind it. Like he was a really solid lad when we met him as well. Like he was sound.
The only thing I like about this transfer, he's a good player, is that it seems like reasonable money for a reasonable player.
Yeah.
It seems like, okay, for once I've seen a transfer with an English guy with dodgy clubs that makes sense. So,
I thought it's one of those
30
just
million
30,
pounds.
and they
Totally
got,
fine.
and then they're also
completely
buying.
fine.
They're buying one of our academy players for a certain amount of mils as well.
Yeah, well, that's less fine. But sure.
Yeah.
Michael Golding, who
Just
Golding,
a child.
But yeah, anyway, another question here for you, Pat. This is really interesting from Yak Westbrook. Though to be fair, I guess it kind of applies to everyone. How does Pat feel that he single-handedly is the reason I knew anything about European football when I was in school? I got all my knowledge from Sunday Vibes and stuff when my mates had never heard of half the teams.
How do you feel about that?
But to be fair, everyone kind of has that side as well.
You know, who have I not educated? That's very kind. That's a very kind thing to say. I don't know. Like, we just had to produce stuff about European football, and you know, having to produce content does mean that over time you do actually learn stuff. And some of the guys who you wrote about early on end up being good. I don't know. Like, yeah, thank you. But to be honest, if you've learned something about European football, it's probably because you paid attention and tried to learn it. That's genuinely the difference. Like, that was the difference with our channel as well.
Yeah.
You know, like, I remember we would see people from our channel go and appear on other shows and be clearly the best informed. And it was because, like, everybody on our channel, like, wanted to be well informed, and it was expected that you knew when you were on one of our shows. And as a result, like, when I see Henry on something, when I see you on something, when I see Doogie or McCubbin or whoever it is, I just think these guys always know more than the person they're talking to. And you can, and to this day, like, I can't really do this actually anymore, like, because I don't watch enough football now, and like, I don't write scripts anymore, and I have kids, and I don't remember anything. Like, but we used to genuinely on these shoots, like, you would just throw a player at people, and they would just be able to, like, you know, like, reel off a bunch of stats about them, talk about their history, like, talk about their connection to the club. Like, people we worked with can do that. So that to me is like a mark of, I guess, the kind of ethos we built rather than like me.
Yeah, I think from like the European aspects, there are too many players to know, and we're not. But the thing is, what I think we've got good at over time is identifying what club is managed by who and what style of play, and then looking at a player within that system and looking at the statistics quickly, because you often just research a player quickly, see a few highlights. You look at the statistics and you go, okay, they're doing this and they're doing this within this system by this manager, and you can kind of piece it together and then make an informed argument about that. And that is what, you know, going on these shows on Sky Sports, whatever, and having to research these guys quickly and being able to come to quick, educated conclusions about players and then sounding intelligent on it. That has been the greatest skill set I think we've picked up. And yeah, it's European football is so much fun as well. So I'm glad that people are taking an interest in it.
It's shocking to this day, I think, that like you'll go on, like 10 years ago, the struggle was to get people to look at stats. And now the struggle is, and will be for the rest of time, to get people to understand which stats matter. Yeah. So like you will see a list of players and they'll be like, these are the players with the like highest shot conversion rate, like in Europe's top 5 leagues last season. And people will be like, wow, this guy's amazing. He's got a shot conversion rate of like 30%. And like, that's always stuff where you're like, this is like illiterate. Like you don't know what you're doing with the data if you're just thinking that one number solves, like, you know, I saw a thing yesterday that was like, who's won the highest proportion of defensive duels, like under 20s across Europe. And I was like, some of these players are good and some of them are just nobodies. Like, and that to me is like data illiteracy. Yeah. So what we learned, is like, why does this matter? And trying to meld it to like what you actually know, what you do see of football. You're like, why does this matter? That was something that we tried to do, and that is something that I feel you do if you're being critical. Yeah. So long as you're critical and you're paying attention, like you'll learn stuff and get really good at it.
Lovely. Well put, guys. One final one, a nice little fun one to end. Morgan Turner Green has asked each of your favourite players from your club currently and of all time.
Go on, Hennes.
Brian
McBride.
No, it's Breda Hangeland is my favourite Fulham player. That era of him and Aaron Hughes as our centre halves and just looking so solid. I know it's a really boring answer, but I really do love Breda Hangeland. He was such a rock. Like, falling in love with that
like
Fulham
that,
side
man.
that got to the European Europa League final. I think if you talk to any Fulham fan, we just all talk about that game, that run to the final. It's just, and that's what I think is good, important for smaller teams to have those moments to enjoy success, because it really does create memories that last for a long time, as opposed to winning the cup every single year. And then my favourite current player, I do love Tim Ream, but probably Leno. I just think Leno's just been unreal since he's come in goal for Fulham. I think he's just so good.
Very
and
solid.
I can't believe the amount of money that we paid for him and got him.
5 mil?
It sort of
Oh, I
creeps up
imagine.
every year that we stay in. So I think it's now about 8 or 9 million.
Okay.
But even
Yeah, I thought it
so,
was
Still
around
worth it,
8,
man.
but like,
Still worth it.
but even
Pretty
so,
good.
it's just he's such a good keeper. I can't believe we have him, and he just seems to just love being in West London. He seems to have accepted at this point in his career. He gets paid good money to live in a nice place.
Yeah,
It doesn't really matter. So yeah, I'd probably say he is my favourite player
Right now.
Yeah, right now.
Nice.
Good choice.
I'd go with of all time. I'd go with, I don't know. It kind of changes every now and again. I always remember Petr with like really fond memories.
Okay.
Like, you know, there's always an era, I think, when you're about like 9 years old or like 12, maybe whatever, where the goalkeeper is the coolest position. So I'll give it to Czech this time. I might say.
But you play keeper too.
I did for a bit, yeah. I did for a bit, and so like, yeah, maybe there it was. And then right now, I actually have quite a few for Chelsea, but I'd go with either Nicholas Jackson or Carney Chukwuemeka.
Cool.
I quite like Carney.
I would like to see more of him this season.
Yeah, if he's hopefully he doesn't get any injuries this year. Patrick, you and Arsenal.
Favorite player right now. It's actually quite hard to pick, but I mean, look,
Surely Saka, no?
it's got to be Saka, really. But I mean, like, I could equally have said Odegaard. I love Martinelli. Like, there are loads of players I love in this team, but Saka is
Fair enough.
He is the best player.
He's the best kind of. He's also the best kind of player you could have. Like, it just seems like such a lovely man.
He's an academy kid. Like, he's smart. Like, I don't know. To me, he just like represents like what Arsenal is. Like, it feels like London. Like, there is a representative of like London on the pitch
video
with
of him, bless him. The video of him watching the video
my
of
God.
fans where they were like, "We won't.
We'd rather not win the league.
Than win the league." Yeah,
and keep
I was
you.
like,
Yeah,
oh, it's really sweet. His
that was
reaction
great.
was very sweet.
I think he was genuinely taken aback.
Yeah.
Like, my favorite Arsenal player of all time, Bergkamp.
Fair. It's not too bad. It's not too bad.
A lot more exciting options for you guys compared to me.
What do you mean? You could have had
I'm there going like,
Dempsey.
You could have had Dempsey.
Johnson.
You could have Donovan. Donovan was there for a year, wasn't he?
Was Ryan Nelson?
Oh, it was Everton. I'm thinking of.
No, we had Karagunis. I loved him. Brian Ruiz. Brian Ruiz.
Yeah, right.
Like Mitrovic for a long time.
That other guy who scored that
Until we
great goal.
left, you
Kasami.
were a huge fan of Mitre.
Yeah. We had an American forward called Eddie Johnson.
Saha?
He might be one of the worst footballers I've ever seen in my life.
Saha, Berbatov.
Schwarzer.
Schwartz was
Keep them coming. All right. No, anyway, let's not end on a list of Fulham.
I think we should keep
I
going.
think we should
just. I think you should just like fade out, like as we
fades
do
to
this.
black.
Zoltan Gira.
Yeah, Zoltan. Yeah. That's a really good like Bond villain name as well. Like, it's a really good name.
Surely another one.
Man, I think.
Boccanegra.
Yeah, it's hard to find someone who doesn't have a soft spot for Fulham. I think.
They're the soft spot team, aren't they? Well, there we have it, boys and girls. Everybody at home, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Henry Hill, I will be putting Football Joe down in the description. You'll be on their videos very, very soon. So check it out there. Patrick Van Straten, Unseen Incidents. If people haven't heard of it at home, where should they go for it?
Any podcast app, including Spotify, you can find us there, Unseen Incidents, with Patrick and Pete. You can also check out the latest episode of the Transfer Flow, Ted Knutson's new kind of like podcast newsletter. I was on that this week. We talked about Kobe Mainu. We talked about the Anthony Gordon to Liverpool rumours. We talked a bit about Calafiori. And we talked about someone else. I don't remember. But it was all good stuff.
Nice. All of that will be linked in the descriptions below as well. Super easy to click onto it. Hope you guys have enjoyed the video. Like the video if you have. Subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you guys next week.
Papa Bouba Diop. Good player.
Yeah.